What's up, everybody? Welcome to Pants's Guide to Star Killing on Algalon. Killing stars can be daunting, so I'm going to walk you through every aspect of star killing to help you be as prepared as possible. I'll talk about the stars, what they are and what they do, how and when we want to kill the stars, and then show you how it's done in a kill of my own. If you're a more advanced player, then I'll also talk about how we can use killing stars to our advantage for parsing, and a quick hint is that we're multi-dotting. Alright, let's get into it. First up, let's talk about the stars and what they do. So 15 seconds into the fight, and every minute thereafter, 4 stars will spawn into the room. They tend to float around their spawn area, but where they float can be a little bit random. They lose 1% HP per second, and when they die, they deal a ton of shadow damage to everybody in the raid. They also leave a void zone on the ground, and everybody in the raid is going to need to run into this in order to survive Big Bang. The most stars you'll ever have alive at a single time is 4. So if 2 are alive when the next set are supposed to spawn, then only 2 will spawn. Same if you have 3 alive, then only 1 will spawn in that next set. This will be really important when we talk about the timing of killing stars later on. Now let's talk about their spawning mechanics. So as I mentioned, 15 seconds into the fight, 4 stars will spawn in a different quadrant of the room. Since they lose 1% HP per second, all stars would die a minute and 40 seconds after they spawn on their own, but it would be really bad for the raid if all stars died at the same time. As the star killer, our job is to stagger the deaths of the stars by damaging them individually. We also want to kill as few stars as possible to keep the raid damage to a minimum. Since a new set of stars spawn every minute, but the most amount of stars that can be active at any time is 4, if we can delay the deaths of the stars until after the next set spawn, that's going to reduce the amount of stars we have throughout a fight. So let's recap. We have 4 stars that spawn 15 seconds into the fight. Stars lose 1% HP per second and deal a lot of damage when they die to everybody in the raid. New stars spawn every minute after the first set, bringing the total in the room to 4. And we want to stagger the deaths of the stars. And any that survive for a minute will reduce the amount of stars that spawn in the next set. So now let's talk about our job on this fight. As I mentioned before, our primary job is to make sure that multiple stars don't die at the same time, because that will cause a wipe. Our secondary job is to try to kill as few stars as possible, and this can be done by waiting to kill stars until a minute after they spawn, since that's when the next set of stars spawn. We also want to try to not kill stars during a cosmic smash, as that's just going to lead to extra raid damage and could potentially kill people. Now if your raid is playing well, there should be virtually 0 raid damage outside of the random arcane barrages from constellations, but we all know that there's somebody in our raid that's going to be taking damage from cosmic smash. Now on screen, I'm going to show an image that shows the last wave of stars that we have to kill based upon our fight length. Knowing our fight length is extremely important here, because once the boss gets to 20%, all stars in the room despawn. The important thing to know is what's the difference in time between stars spawning and between the boss hitting 20%, because if it's less than a minute and 40 seconds, then you don't need to kill those stars. This is assuming that nobody in your raid is cleaving them though. So if the stars that spawn in the final set take damage from your raid, you might have to kill them anyway. Now before I talk about actually killing the stars, I want to talk about some Weakauras that make this incredibly easier to do. The first one I want to talk about is the Foji Star Killing Weakaura. What this does is it creates a set of 4 bars that track the health of all stars that are alive so you can easily monitor them. But it also puts a little text box above each of the stars in the fight. Now what this is going to do is it's going to show you how much damage you have to do to these stars in order for them to die during a Big Bang. And that's going to be extremely important when we talk about killing the stars. The whole reason to kill a star during Big Bang is that the Shadow Priest will be the only person who takes any damage from it. And if they're dispersed when it explodes, then they basically take no damage from the entire explosion, and nobody in the raid takes any damage either. So you can mitigate a lot of raid-wide damage by killing stars during Big Bang. The second Weakaura that I want to talk about is really anything that's going to track the timer of when the next stars are going to spawn. My guild has a Weakaura that we use for this, and I'm going to link that in the description of the video. Since we're trying to reduce the amount of star spawns throughout the fight, having a Weakaura track when the next stars are going to spawn makes it so much easier to know when we can kill stars after the next set has already spawned. This way we're just minimizing the amount of stars that spawn throughout the fight. Note that this is a Weakora pack though, so it has Weakauras for every boss in Ulduar. So if you only want this Algalon Weakora, then make sure you delete everything else from the pack. Alright, now let's get into the fight itself. I'm going to talk about 2 different strategies for killing the first set of 4 stars. First strategy will be we kill 1 star during the Big Bang, and the second strategy will be where we kill 2 stars during Big Bang. Killing 2 stars during Big Bang is more difficult and requires your raid to get into the black holes immediately, but can help reduce the healing needed on the fight. It also works a lot better if your raid has fast kill times, ideally under 4.5 minutes. Starting off with killing 1 star during Big Bang strategy. 15 seconds into the fight, 4 stars are going to spawn, and one of them will spawn where we are tanking the boss. This is really helpful because everybody can cleave this star down and we want the first star to die immediately. We want to try to kill it before Cosmic Smash happens to avoid any overlapping damage. If you don't have a star spawn on top of the boss where you're tanking him, you should still pick 1 star that you're going to kill immediately, and you can just have other ranged help kill it if the melee can't reach it. After the first star dies, we want to go straight into killing the second. Since we're going to have a 3rd star to kill before the Big Bang, we don't want to kill the 3rd star too close to the second, and if we waited until the next star spawn, we would only have a 15-second window to kill both of these before Big Bang starts. The other problem is that due to the location of the 2nd star that we're killing, it's possible that it could float into melee and get cleaved anyway. This has happened to me numerous times where I don't do any damage to this star, but because it floats into melee, it gets cleaved and it dies before the next star spawn anyway. After that star is dead, we wait until 1 minute and 15 into the fight, when the next star spawn, before we kill the 3rd star. You can damage the 3rd star with dots before the next set spawn, just be careful that there's not extra cleave coming from your raid. And finally we have the 4th star. This is where Foji's Weakora does a lot of heavy lifting. In 25 man, we have to do 41,600 damage to the stars for them to die during the first Big Bang. If you're doing this as a Shadow Priest, it's really important to know how much damage one of your dots does on average. For me, a full Vampiric Touch usually does between 15 to 20,000. So while I'm cleaving down the other stars, I'll throw a Vampiric Touch on the 4th star. This is where Foji's Weakora does a ton of heavy lifting to get the star's health in the perfect range for Big Bang. If after that first Vampiric Touch, the star has less than 20,000 health, I'll usually just Mind Flay to get its health to around plus 5,000 using the Weakora. But if it has plus 25,000 health using the Weakora, then I'll usually just cast another Vampiric Touch. Dots can be risky though, because if you get lucky with crits, or in this case unlucky, you might do too much damage to the star, and then it could die before Big Bang cast as people are running into their void zones. 1 star dying early is not going to wipe your raid, but if you're killing 2 stars during Big Bang like I'll describe in the next section, then that can cause a big problem. Due to its low damage per tick, Mind Flay is the best tool to use to finely tune a star's health so that it's at the perfect range that you want it to be. What I like to do is get the Weakora to read plus 5,000 in green as Big Bang is being cast. I'll then throw a single dot onto that star and then disperse when there's less than 6 seconds on the Big Bang cast. The dot will kill the star perfectly with Big Bang and you'll take barely any damage from the star explosion. Now, coming out of that Big Bang, we will have 2 stars alive. Ideally, we wait for those stars to live another 30 seconds after the Big Bang before we kill them. But since they replace the stars near melee, it's extremely likely they're going to get cleaved. Just call out to your melee and try to tell them to stop their cleave, as it's really important to limit the amount of stars that spawn, and we need these to stay alive when the next stars spawn. Remember that the stars lose 1% health per second. So if you have 30 seconds until your next star spawn, but one of your stars is at 25% health, that star's not going to make it to that spawn anyway, so you might as well kill it at a time that's best for your raid. In my raids, typically the 5th star doesn't make it until the next star spawn, but the 6th one does. So if your 5th star dies early, that's okay. Just make sure that your 6th star doesn't die until the next set of stars spawn. For the 3rd set of stars, we will have 3 stars spawn at 2:15 into the fight. Depending on your raid's kill speed, you may not have to kill this set at all, or this will be the final set of stars that you do have to kill. Knowing your raid's kill time is extremely important here. If you do have to kill these, I highly recommend killing at least 1 star during the next Big Bang. Since he spawned at 2:15 into the fight, they will have 55% HP when Big Bang is cast at 3 minutes, if they don't take any cleave damage. So you'll have to do 55% damage to one of the stars in order to kill it in time. For this star, I would not pick a star in melee. That's because if it dies during Big Bang and no one except the Shadow Priest knows where the new Void Zone is, the melee could leave the Shadow Realm, and when they spawn back into the normal realm with Algalon, they could immediately go back to the Shadow Realm because they might be standing in the new Void Zone when they spawn. Now remember, even if your kill time is 6 minutes, this set of stars that we're currently killing is going to be the last set of stars that you have to kill anyway. So it doesn't matter if you wait until the next star spawn before you kill them. You can kill these stars whenever. Just do whatever's safest for your raid and make sure they don't die too close together. The next set of stars spawns at 3:15 into the fight, just after the second Big Bang. Unless your raid goes cleave crazy, you won't have to kill these, so just make sure everybody ignores them. The more damage going into the stars means the less damage that's going into Algalon. Once Algalon reaches 30%, you want to try to understand if you need to kill any more stars or not. Now, a lot of cleave damage can change this as it can manipulate a star's health pretty quickly, but if your stars are fairly high health and you're at 30% HP, make a call out to your raid that no more stars are going to die and that they definitely don't want to be cleaving any. Alright, now let's talk about if we want to kill 2 stars during the first Big Bang. This strategy works best with fast kill times, ideally under 4.5 minutes, because you will only have to kill 5 stars in total and 2 will be during Big Bang. So similar to the other strategy, we kill the first star immediately. After that, we wait until 1:15 into the fight to kill the second star, and that's because we're waiting until the next star spawn and we only get 1 extra star. But after the first star dies, we want to start dotting the 2 stars that are going to die during Big Bang. Boji's Weakauras is going to be amazing here, and we want to deal 41,600 damage to both of the stars so that they die at the end of the Big Bang cast. I like to do 1 full vampiric touch on each of these stars. Once that runs out, if they have less than 20,000 HP until they hit their target health, I'll just mind flay them until they're about 5,000 HP above the target health. This isn't great for parsing, but mind flay is the best tool to use to fine tune their health to what you want it to be. So this star phase looks like this. We immediately kill the first star, we kill the second after the next set spawn, and we gradually get the third and the fourth stars to be about 5,000 health above their target so that they die during Big Bang. Once the Big Bang cast starts, put a single dot onto both of these stars and then disperse when there's less than 6 seconds on the Big Bang cast. Both stars will die to the dots, everybody else from your raid will be inside of the Shadow Realm, and you'll be the only one who takes damage, and since you're dispersed, you won't take that much damage from the star explosions. If your raid is slow to get into the Void Zones, then the double star explosion will kill anybody who gets hit by both of them, so make sure that they know what you're doing, as I've definitely caused a few wipes by not telling my raid that 2 stars were dying during Big Bang. I blame my raid, they should have gotten in their Void Zones faster. But communication is key to kill 2 stars during Big Bang. Now, after the first Big Bang, we only have 1 star that's alive, since 3 were alive when the second set spawned. And if you kill Algalon in under 4.5 minutes, then this star is going to be the last star that we have to kill in this fight. That's because we're going to push Algalon to 20% before 3 minutes and 55 seconds into the fight. And that's when the third set of stars would die naturally. So assuming you have a fast kill time, kill this last star whenever. Just play it safe. That means that your raid only had 3 star deaths to heal for your entire raid, since 2 of them died during Big Bang. But if your raid has a slow kill time, then that means during the third set of stars, you're either going to get 3 or 4 stars. The 1 star that spawned during the second set is a melee star, so it's really possible that it's going to get cleaved down and it's going to die before the third set spawn, which is why I'm recommending a fast kill time for this strategy. It's possible you could get 4 stars spawn in the third set, and that makes your life a lot more difficult if you have to kill them. If you do have a slow kill time, or you got unlucky and had some deaths, and you have now 4 stars alive with the third spawn, I would recommend killing 1 immediately, kill 1 during the Big Bang, and kill the next 2 after the second Big Bang. This is definitely more of a parse strategy, as it's not necessary to kill 2 stars during the first Big Bang, though I personally find it a lot more satisfying. If you are parsing, then make sure to never single target the stars. Use your dots while single targeting Algalon and monitor the star's health through your Weakauras. Call out when they're dying, but make sure you never have to single target them outside of a Mind Flayer or 2 before Big Bang, just that they're at the right amount of health. Alright, now let's walk through a kill and I'll show you how I do it in the fight. I've done both strategies that I've talked about here. Though, as I've mentioned, my guild likes to take their time when running into the void zones and tends to die during the double star deaths during the Big Bang cast. Anyway, let's get into the kill. Alright, now before we get into the fight, I just kind of want to talk about some things that I did in this fight, and that I did poorly, actually. Just because it's really hard to experiment as the Star Killer. And the reason for that is, my guild has had this fight on farm in 3 different raids since week 2. So if I experiment and, try to do things a little bit differently and try to optimize, it could lead to a wipe. So I really am trying to avoid that. So I'm going to talk about the mistakes that I make here, but I'm going to illuminate, I'm going to tell you what you should be doing here. And it's not too much different than what I am doing. It's just I messed up some of the timings. I used a dot when I shouldn't have because my dot did too much damage to the stars and it died early. So it's small things like that I mess up here, but it's pretty close to everything that I've described so far. All right, let's get into it. So when the fight begins, you have about 15 seconds to just DPS Algalon. Obviously, the stars don't spawn until 15 seconds into the fight. I don't use my Shadow Fiend here, and I should be doing that. I've been saving it until after I dot a few of the stars just for the mana return. But with how much time we're spent dispersing, we're already getting a lot of mana back. So that's not something I should be doing. I should be using my Shadow Fiend in the beginning, but ultimately minor detail. The stars are about to spawn, and once this first one does come out labeled circle, I just send all my dots into it and I go full single target. I think there might be a few other people attacking it. I can't really tell. But the star is going to die right after a Cosmic Smash. Now, it doesn't matter if it dies just before or just after, as long as the healers know when it's going to die so that they can prepare all of their cooldowns. So once that star dies, I reapply dots onto Algalon, and then I start dotting up the other stars. I see that the star that has the star label is already pretty close to dead, so there's no way that's going to survive until the next stars spawn. And then the 2 in the back, I put a single Vampiric Touch on. So you can see our second star died 30 seconds before the stars spawn. So, not the end of the world. Would have liked it to have lived longer, but that's okay. Now, here's where I make my mistake. So after that Vampiric Touch falls off the 2 stars in the back, I put another Vampiric Touch on them. But this is going to be a problem. Now, why is that a problem? Because it's going to crit. And my Vampiric Touch on both of these stars is actually going to do too much damage. So you can see the one labeled Moon. After this Vampiric Touch is done, the weak aura above its name is actually going to be red, and that means it's going to die before the Big Bang cast. And the same thing happens to the other star. So I don't want 2 stars exploding early, because that's going to lead to a wipe. So I decided to dot up this star labeled Diamond now, to kill it early, because if 2 stars die at the same time as people are running into void zones before the Big Bang cast, it's going to lead to a wipe. You can see this other star just exploded here, and we have 2 people dead. It exploded before I even dispersed. So that would have been really bad if we had 2 stars explode at that point in time. So that was entirely my fault, just because I did too much damage, and I should have been mind flaying instead of using a second Vampiric Touch to get those stars' health to where I wanted it to be. Now the star that's labeled Moon here, because it's similar to the last star that exploded too early, it's just in that melee cleave zone, so it's taken a lot of damage. I haven't even done any damage to it, and it's going to die 15 seconds before the next star spawn. Algalon ran to me there because I think our tank got sent down to the Shadow Realm, but our other tank taunted it, so not a big deal. You can see that star just died. We have about 10 seconds until the next stars spawn. And here, at least, the star labeled square has 35% HP. So that's fine, that's healthy. So we get 3 stars spawned here. After those stars spawn, I dot up square, let our healers know it's going to die, and then keep focusing Algalon. Now we've reached that kind of critical point where we're going to push Algalon to 20% before these next set of stars die naturally. But you can see the star that's labeled square, again, in that melee cleave zone, is already 16% below the other stars. So I'm kind of doing the mental math as I'm playing the fight here, but I'm realizing that we're going to have to kill square. And the other thing that I'm realizing is that Big Bang is coming up soon. So what I'm going to try to do is try to burn that collapsing star down, obviously not too fast, but fast enough so that I can kill it during Big Bang and that nobody's going to take any damage. So I put some dots on it now, and then I start kind of focusing it as that Big Bang cast is winding down. You can see it is about to die. I put a Devouring Plague on it. I dispersed with 1 second left on the Big Bang cast. The star exploded perfectly in time, And that was really lucky that everything kind of lined up that way. I mean, it would have been better if the star just didn't take cleave damage. So that's, something for our raid to think about. But at the end of the day, it was fine. And now we have 10% to get the boss to 20% before these stars die, and they're at 33% health. So again, 33 seconds to do 10% of his health, which is absolutely possible. So I just call out to our raid. I'm like, hey, make sure you're not cleaving stars. Full send your single target into the boss, and we will transition without any more stars dying. And that's exactly what happens here. So a large part of being successful here is just kind of communicating to your raid what you're doing, what's happening with the stars, and then also making sure that if you see something go wrong, if you like oh shit, 2 stars are going to blow up at the same time, that's going to wipe us, you have to change the course of one of those stars. You have to make sure that they're not going to blow up at the same time, because that is the fastest way to wipe in this fight. So even though that was my fault, I was quick to recognize that it was going to lead to a wipe, and that's why we killed that 3rd star early. So even with mistakes, as long as your healers are paying attention and you're communicating with them that like, oh, this star's going to explode before Big Bang, make sure you heal everybody up. The 4th star might explode a little bit early. We did have some deaths, but we had enough battle reses and soulstones out to cover those deaths so that when we killed the boss, everybody was still alive. So, again, it comes down to how comfortable your raid is with the fight. But even if you make some mistakes along the way, the fight can be salvaged as long as you do a good job spreading out the damage between the different star explosions. And that's really, at the end of the day, that is the most important thing. Like, while killing 2 stars during that first Big Bang is like a fun finesse play, it's not necessary to killing the boss. And I didn't even kill 1 during that Big Bang. I messed up both of them, and we still were able to kill it here. So just, do your best, communicate with your raid, and it should be a kill. It's going to take a little bit of practice, but after a little bit, you'll get the hang of it, and you'll really just kind of understand when the stars are going to die. You might not even be looking at the Weakauras anymore. So anyway, I hope this guide helped you. I hope it showed you that even if you don't play perfectly, you can still secure a kill. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments or message me on Discord. Happy to help out anybody who's struggling, or, if you have any questions about what I did here. Anyway, my name's Pantsface, and I'll see you in the next one.